This section of Exodus gives the Israelites the blueprint for the tabernacle and the pattern for the garments of the high priest. Now, the tabernacle would be the center of Israel's life because it would be there where man would approach Elohim. Now, the detailed narrative that tells of the construction and building of the tabernacle can be broken up into two parts. The series of instructions are given in chapters 25 through 31, and the account of its construction is given in chapters 35 through 40. And then you got that little break in the middle there, chapters 32, 33, and 34, and that's that account, the unseemly account of the golden calf, which is in between this design phase and the construction phase. Now, the tabernacle, it's an oblong structure consisting of 3 zones, and they are the Holy of Holies, which is this little square right here. It's 10 cubits by 10 cubits by 10 cubits. And then there's the holy place, which is twice the size of the Holy of Holies. And then there's the outer court. The structure is oriented longitudinally on an east-west axis, like I'm showing here. North is up, okay, just like it's supposed to be. An outer perimeter designates the sacred area, and it's divided up into 2 equal squares. The first 2 zones lie in one square, and the outer court constitutes the outer square. Now, from the ark of the Holy of Holies, Elohim, he reaches out to Israel. And from the altar of sacrifice, Israel reaches out to Elohim in obedience. Now, each structure is located at the exact center of each square, if you look at this. See, the altar is right in the center of the outer court, and the Ark of the Covenant is exactly in the center of the Holy of Holies, which is in the center of that section. Now, there are 7 categories of basic materials needed for the construction of the tabernacle. They're metals, dyed yarns, fabrics, timber, oil, spices, and gems. And all these things were going to be acquired through donations. Now, some of the fabrics required are of a mixture of wool with linen. And this mixed fabric is used in the lower cover of the tabernacle, the curtain in front of the ark, the screen for the entrance of the tent, and the screen for the gate of the enclosure. And it also applies to the high priest, but that's also something that's prohibited for people to wear, which is wool and linen combination. And the best reason I could give you is that it's set apart for this purpose only. Okay? Let's look at the first 2 verses here of Exodus 25. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the sons of Israel to raise a contribution from me. From every man whose heart moves him, you shall raise my contribution." The people are told to give a contribution to help build the tabernacle. And we're told later that the people gave so much that they had to be told to stop. And that's in Exodus 36, verses 3 and 4. And they received from Moses all the contributions which the sons of Israel had brought to perform the work in the construction of the sanctuary. And they still continued bringing to him freewill offerings every morning. And all the skillful men who were performing all the work of the sanctuary came each from the work which he was performing. Let's go back to Exodus. And then keep going here. It has 2 more verses. And they said to Moses, "The people are bringing much more than enough for the construction work which Yahweh commanded us to perform." So Moses issued a command, and a proclamation was circulated throughout the camp, saying, "Let neither man nor woman any longer perform work for the contributions of the sanctuary." Thus the people were restrained from bringing any more. So, and keep in mind the wealth of Israel at that point. They had a good portion of the wealth of the world. So and Egypt had the wealth of the world. And they cleaned out, they fleeced Egypt. So they got a lot of back pay. Verse 3 of Exodus 25, "And this is the contribution which you are to raise from them: gold, silver, and bronze." The metals are listed in descending order of value. Verse 4, "Blue, purple, and scarlet material, fine linen, and goat hair." Now, blue, purple, and crimson yarns are the most expensive dyed yarns of antiquity. The sequence, once again, designates their value. Now, the blue and purple dyes, they probably produced from the murex, which is a marine snail. Now, the Phoenician coast was famous for its dyeing industry, and there have been immense quantities of these snail shells that have been dated back as far as 1500 BC. Modern attempts to recreate this process have shown that it takes thousands of snails to get just one robe dyed. And one estimate was to get 1 pound of dye took 60,000 snails. So that's highly prized stuff. But here's the deal. It wouldn't fade, and the more you wore it in the sun, kind of the brighter it got. So very interesting stuff. But now you see why purple in that day was considered the royal color, because it was the expensive one, and it was the rare one. It was, primarily kings, priests, and judges, and that's about it. Now, the scarlet dye came from the eggs of worms from the Coccidae family, and that's another very expensive dyeing process. And that's where, showing there, the commercial scarlet dyes of antiquity were extracted from these worms. And fine linen was used to denote a fabric of exceptional quality. Goat hair grows in long locks and it's left undyed. The spinning of goat's hair was a specialized skill of some of the Israelite women. Verse 5. Ram skins dyed red, porpoise skins, and acacia wood. Okay. Now the ram skins dyed red, that's probably not dye, it's probably the tanning process is what that's referring to. Porpoise skins, I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's a good translation of the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is tahashim, and its meaning is actually uncertain. In ancient times, the tahash was a reference to the unicorn, and then it says the tahashim. Now, the resemblance to the Hebrew word for porpoise, which is tuhas, leads many to think this is a reference to porpoise skins, but we don't know. Now, an acacia tree, you know what an acacia tree is? I'm no tree expert, but I can look stuff up. Okay, now that the acacia tree there is kind of unique. There are about 800 different species of acacia trees, but only a few have an upright trunk suitable for cutting timbers for construction. Because if they're all shaped like that, how do you get, a lot of straight boards out of them? That's kind of rare to get. Acacia wood is very hard, it's very durable, and it's lightweight. And verse 6, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense. The oil used was a type of olive oil. And the ingredients of the spices are given in Exodus 30, and that's verses 23 through 25. We read, take for yourself the finest of spices, of flowing myrrh, 500 shekels, and a fragrant cinnamon, half as much, 250, and a fragrant cane, 250, and of cassia, 500, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, and of olive oil, a hin. And you shall make of these a holy anointing oil, a perfume mixture, the work of a perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. Okay, in verse 7 of Exodus 25, we read, onyx stones and setting stones for the ephod and for the breastpiece. Now, the ephod is that outer garment that the high priest would wear. Once again, they got all these things from Egypt, and we know they got back pay for some 400 years of slavery, and they had a tremendous amount of wealth in a lot of different ways. And the tabernacle is a fairly small structure, but it had to be carried through the wilderness for a long period of time. It was very rich, it was very beautiful, and it was very expensive. Verse 8, we read, and let them construct a sanctuary for me that I may dwell among them. Elohim is not going to restrict his presence to this one structure, but he would dwell here in this place. Now, his dwelling place would specifically be between the cherubim and the mercy seat. We read in 2 Samuel, and there's been a lot of renditions of it and movies made, as you well know. I don't think this is in some storage barn in some warehouse somewhere. But in 2 Samuel 6, verse 2, and David arose and went with all the people who were with him to Baalah Judah to bring up from there the ark of Elohim, which is called by the name, the very name of the Yahweh of hosts, who is enthroned above the cherubim. Now, this is the mercy seat. That's the lid to the ark. It's called the mercy seat. Verse 9. According to all that I'm going to show you as the pattern of the tabernacle and pattern of all its furniture, just so you shall construct it. So we're told that following the instructions exactly is very, very important. And the book of Hebrews emphasizes the importance of the details of this tabernacle because it's molded after the tabernacle which is in the heavenlies somewhere. And we talked about that in Hebrews just the other day. In Hebrews 8, verses 4 through 6, now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are those who offer the gifts according to the Torah, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly things, just as Moses was warned by Elohim when he was about to erect the tabernacle. For, see, he says, that you make all things according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. But now he's obtained a much more excellent ministry, by as much as he is also the mediator of a better covenant, which has been enacted on better promises. And also in Hebrews 9, verses 23 and 24, therefore it was necessary for the copies of the things in the heavens to be cleansed with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Messiah did not enter a holy place made with hands, a mere copy of the true one, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of Elohim for us. So all these things are copies of what is there where the Father is right now. Now, I don't know much about that. Don't know where he is. It's just called the heavenlies. It's up there somewhere. And apparently in some kind of dimension we're not aware of, can't see, or something. I don't know. But what we had for a tabernacle was just a copy of those things. And all those things were copies. In Exodus 25, verse 10, and they shall construct an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and out. You shall overlay it. You shall make a gold molding around it. You shall cast 4 gold rings for it and fasten them on its 4 feet. And 2 rings shall be on one side of it and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Okay, the construction's based upon a cubit. Now, how long is a cubit? We think it's about 18 inches. And they say it's the length of from your elbow to your tips of your fingers. That's an approximate thing. I mean, everyone's cubit's going to be a little different. The good thing about using the cubit as a measurement, you don't lay it down and forget where you put it. You always got 2 of them with you, okay? Yeah, don't put it on your belt. Doesn't fall off your belt and disappear. Nope. See, now the ark and the mercy seat, that's where Elohim would meet with Israel. And the first article described here is the ark. And we're not approaching these directions from how man walks into the tabernacle and sees it. What we're approaching these directions are from Elohim on the mercy seat looking outward. Okay? That's the order with which we're going to be looking at these things. Now, the ark was made of acacia wood. This is a very durable hardwood, and it could withstand the elements of the world without rotting. It's a lot like redwood that we can get from California. Now, the wood construction of the ark, it represents Yeshua Messiah, and we talked about the symbolism in Scripture. There's a lot of symbolism in Scripture. The ark itself is a picture of Messiah. It's talking about his perfect humanity, and it's not susceptible to the elements of this world, like that acacia wood. Now, though he was tempted like us, he did not sin, he didn't rot. And that's kind of what we are, cheap rotting wood, but he endured without failing. Now, the wood on the ark is overlaid with gold. Now, gold is very rare. It's very valuable, as you well know. Highly sought after, virtually indestructible. It appears to be a foreign substance to the earth. We don't know how gold is made. All right, we have no idea. The gold overlay of the ark, that speaks of the deity of Messiah. Now, the wooden box was covered with gold both inside and out. Colossians 2, verse 9 tells us, "For in him all the fullness of deity dwells in bodily form." Yeshua was not merely a miracle worker. He was a manifestation of Elohim himself as a man. And he was also human. That's what's interesting about this. He's human. He get tired, he get hungry. He ate and he drank. He slept, he cried. And beyond all these things, he suffered and he died. And all these are perfectly human characteristics. Let's look at verses 14 and 15. "And you shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark with them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, they shall not be removed from it." Now, this tabernacle, it's a structure that's carried through the wilderness for a long time, and it's designed for that. It was put together when they set up camp and taken down when they moved. The structures all had rings and staves running through them so the Levites could put the staves on their shoulders, and that's how they would carry it. Now, the mercy seat, that's the lid to the Ark of the Covenant. It's considered a separate piece of furniture. I'm missing a verse. I'm going to have to read you verse 16. It got raptured. "And you shall put into the ark the testimony which I shall give you." Okay, so into the ark is the testimony. That's the tablets. The 10 words of Elohim are put in the ark. Now, the book of Hebrews tells us the 2 tablets were in it, and that 2 other things were placed by the Ark of the Covenant. That's in Hebrews 9, verses 3 through 5. And behind the second veil, there was a tabernacle, which is called the Holy of Holies, having a golden altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant covered on all sides with gold. Excuse me. In which, and by the way, it could also be by which, was a golden jar holding the manna, Aaron's rod which budded, and the tablets of the covenant. And above it were the cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat, but of these things we cannot now speak in detail. Now, all 3 of these things point to Messiah, once again. The commandments, the word of Elohim. Yeshua Messiah is the living word of Elohim that became flesh. The Greek word the Greek word, as we're told in John 1, verses 1 through 3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. All things came into being by him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. And then skipping down to verse 14, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, glory as of the only begotten from the Father, full of grace and truth." Now, people have tried to describe Messiah in different ways. Let's see, how did the old hymn go? True God and true man. The only description I really know to give for him is he is his Father's spoken word that created everything, that became flesh and dwelt among us. I don't know how to add to that. I don't know, and I can't take away from it. But that's all I can say. He's the Father's word made flesh. He's the Father's word that he spoke became flesh and dwelt among us. Now, in Revelation, he's called the Alpha and the Omega. In Revelation 21, verse 6, "And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of the water of life without cost." So he's saying, he's the Alpha and the Omega. That's the first and last letters in the Greek alphabet. He's the whole word of the Father. And this golden pot containing manna. Now, manna, you that you well know. It's the bread supplied to Israel when they were in the wilderness for 40 years. This speaks of Messiah being totally sufficient to supply and meet all our needs. He said he was the bread of life. That's in John 6, starting at verse 48. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread which comes down out of heaven, so that one may eat of it and not die. I am the bread which came down out of heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread also which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. And then there's that rod of Aaron that budded, which is interesting. That's in number 17, verses 8 through 10. Now it came about on the next day that Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds and produced blossoms, and it bore ripe almonds. Moses then brought out all the rods from the presence of Yahweh to the sons of Israel, and they looked, and each man took his rod. But Yahweh said to Moses, put back the rod of Aaron before the testimony to be kept as a sign against the rebels, that you may put an end to their grumblings against me, so that they should not die. See, this was just a dead stick. It was used by the high priest. Aaron's had budded, and it grew beautiful blossoms. And that points to the resurrection of Yeshua, Messiah, and our high priest today. He was dead, stone cold dead for 3 days. Then he came to life, and this Aaron's rod is a picture of him. So all those things speak of Messiah. Going back to Exodus 25, verse 17. And you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. You shall make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat at its 2 ends. And the cherubim shall have their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings and facing one another. And the faces of the cherubim are to be turned toward the mercy seat. Okay, the mercy seat, the lid is entirely made of gold. It's the top of the ark. It's considered a separate piece of furniture. 2 gold cherubim, 1 on each end, and their wings spread covering the seat. Now they were looking down on the top where the blood is going to be placed. This is where Elohim dwelt. This is where the high priest would go in and pour out the blood of the sacrifice, and then he would leave again. Yeah. The placing of the blood, when the blood is placed there, then it's called the mercy seat, because that's what it is for his people. And after his resurrection, that's what Yeshua did. He presented his blood to the throne of Elohim. This made the throne of Elohim not only the judgment seat of Elohim, but the mercy seat of Elohim. Remember after he resurrected, he said, I've got to go. I haven't been to see my Father yet. Okay, that's what he had to do. He had to present his blood. And Messiah, when he did that, presented his blood to the Father, instead of going out the door like the high priest would do, and the high priest would be glad he's still alive, Messiah stayed there, and he sat at the right hand of the Father. That's discussed in Hebrews 8. Starting at verse 1, now the main point in what has been said is this. We have such a high priest who has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens, a minister in the sanctuary and in the true tabernacle, which the master pitched, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and sacrifices. Hence it is necessary that this high priest also have something to offer. Now, if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are those who offer the gifts according to the Torah, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly things, just as Moses was warned by Elohim when he was about to erect the tabernacle. For see, he says, that you make all things according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. But now he has obtained a more excellent ministry, by as much as he also is the mediator of a better covenant, which has been enacted on better promises. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the mercy seat, verses 21 and 22. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony which I shall give to you. And there I'll meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony, I will speak to you about all that I will give you in commandment for the sons of Israel. Okay, so this thing is made entirely of gold. And Gold is not only the most precious of substances on the earth, it's also the densest. It is very heavy. For instance, and we don't know what the thing looked like, and I don't know a cherubim. They're showing us angels with the wings. I don't know. They're described in Ezekiel. They're described in Revelation. But the description lacks some things, okay? Like, I still can't visualize them very well. But this particular thing, we can look at the size of this. Now, a cubic foot of water, for instance, weighs 62.4 pounds. A cubic foot of concrete weighs 150 pounds. A cubic foot of iron, when I say a cubic foot, I mean a foot by a foot by a foot, okay? Cubic foot of iron weighs 491 pounds, okay? A cubic foot of copper weighs 559 pounds. Silver is even denser than copper at 655 pounds per cubic foot. Any guess on gold? Cubic foot of gold, 1,206 pounds. Real close.
And how many were carrying this?
That's the question. That's the question. Yeah, those are stout poles. I don't know if they're just two of them. There could have been a bunch through there. They could have.
Just had 4 rings on each post.
Now, we're given the dimensions of the mercy seat. Okay, it's 2.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits. So it's 45 inches by 27 inches. All right? So if it's 1 inch thick, not counting the angels on top, if it's 1 inch thick, it's 847 pounds. It's not that thick.
The chances are it's probably thicker.
Probably thicker than that, yeah. 847 pounds. If it's 1 inch thick. Not counting the cherubs on top, right?
Well over 1,000 pounds.
Sure. Easily over 1,000 pounds. It could easily be over a ton. And it had to be carried by Levites. But it couldn't have been over a ton. How do you get that many men to carry the thing? Maybe Levites are more stout than the average Israelite. I don't know. But if they weren't initially, they would be by the time they're done. So, now after describing the construction of the articles in the Holy of Holies, Elohim will describe the articles in the outer room, which is the holy place. Verses 23 and 24, and you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a gold border around it. The table of showbread is what we're talking about here. It's made of the same materials as the Ark of the Covenant. It's made the same height as the Ark. And once again, the almost incorruptible acacia wood speaks of the humanity of Messiah. The wood is a product of the earth, but it's almost totally unaffected by the deteriorating processes in the world. And once again, that's Messiah and his humanity. The table of showbread's covered with gold. It's and once again, we don't know how gold is made. What was alchemy? Do you remember what alchemy? Reading about that? Trying to turn lead into gold. Right. I remember when I was moderating a creation science message board, and I posed the question: how did all the elements in the periodic table, come into being from hydrogen? And answer me, guys. And the guy said, well, it's not that difficult. And I said, well, good, because I'm going to buy the hydrogen and you're going to make us some gold. We're going to get rich. I'm glad I ran into you. He didn't respond. So this gold is it has more monetary value than virtually any other substance. And this speaks of Messiah. He's not from the earth in his deity. He is the Word of the Father made flesh. He came in glory. Verse 25, and you shall make for it a rim of a handbreadth around it. You shall make a gold border for the rim around it. You shall make 4 gold rings for it, and put rings on the 4 corners, which are on its feet. The rings shall be close to the rim as holders for the poles to carry the table. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, so that with them the table may be carried. Okay, this ring too, it had rings and staves, this table did, transported by the Levites and the priests. And that's a rendition of what they think it looked like. Verses 29 and 30, and you shall make its dishes and its pans and its jars and its bowls with which to pour libations, and you shall make them of pure gold. You shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me at all times. So on the table were placed 12 loaves of bread, and the bread was changed every Sabbath. And the bread was that was removed, it was eaten with wine by the priestly family in the holy place. And Yeshua Messiah is the showbread for believers to take a part of and have eternal life. That's why he said in John 6, starting at verse 30, and they said before him, what then do you do for a sign that we may see and believe you? What work do you perform? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread out of heaven to eat. Yeshua therefore said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, it is not Moses who has given you the bread out of heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread out of heaven. For the bread of Elohim is that which comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world. They said therefore to him, Master, evermore give us this bread. Yeshua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. And it's in Exodus 25, verses 29 and 30, and you shall make its dishes and its pans and its jars and its bowls with which to pour out their libations. Make them of pure gold, and that bread of the presence on the table before me will be set before me at all times. And, they've been saying for years, you are what you eat. And essentially it's true. If we feed ourselves the things of this world, that's what we turn into. And we have to be feeding on Messiah, growing closer to him and his word is what we have to do. Verses 31 and 32. And you shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand and its base and its shaft are to be made of hammered work. Its cups, its bulbs, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. And 6 branches shall go out from its side. 3 branches of the lampstand from its one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand from its other side. 3 cups shall be shaped like almond blossoms in one branch, a bulb and a flower, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms in the other branch, a bulb and a flower. So for 6 branches going out from the lampstand. And in the lampstand 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, its bulbs and its flowers. And a bulb shall be under the first pair of branches coming out of it, and a bulb under the second pair of branches coming out of it, and a bulb under the third pair of branches coming out of it, for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. Their bulbs and their branches shall be of one piece with it. All of it shall be one piece of hammered work of pure gold. Then you shall make its lamps 7 in number, and they shall mount its lamps so as to shed the light on the space in front of it. And its snuffers and their trays shall be of pure gold. So that's a rendition of what they think the golden lampstand looked like. It shall be made from a talent of pure gold with all these utensils, and see that you make them after the pattern for them which was shown to you on the mountain. And once again, another picture of Messiah. It's made of pure gold. That speaks of his deity. He is the Word of Elohim. Worship of Elohim has to do with walking in the light and not in the darkness. The table of showbread speaks of the fact that we feed on Messiah in our lives in order to grow. Yeshua is the light we need to walk in. In John 1, verses 6 through 9, there came a man sent from Elohim whose name was John. He came for a witness, that he might bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came that he might bear witness of the light. And there was the true light which, coming into the world, enlightens every man. Yeshua is the light of the world. John 8, verse 12. Again, therefore, Yeshua spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in the darkness, but shall have the light of life. And Yeshua had no darkness in him whatsoever. 1 John 1, verses 5 through 7. And this is the message we've heard from him and announced to you, that Elohim is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. But if we walk in the light as he himself is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Yeshua his son cleanses us from all sin. So, do you see why Yeshua said some of the things he said? Why he said, I'm the bread of life. Why I'm the light of the world. Okay, why we're told he's the Father's Word made flesh. All these things point us back to this original tabernacle. Okay? And he said, how do we approach the Father now? How did he say? He says, through me. Right? How did they approach the Father back then? Through the tabernacle. In the same way that these things are a pattern of things in heaven, we are supposed to pattern ourselves after Messiah. Okay? And after Elohim himself. In Leviticus 11, starting at verse 44. For I am Yahweh your Elohim. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy. What's consecrate mean? Set apart yourself. And be holy. What's that mean? Set apart. For I am set apart. You shall not make yourselves unclean with any of the swarming things that swarm on the earth. For I am Yahweh who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. Thus you shall be holy, for I am holy. This is the Torah regarding the animal and the bird and every living thing that moves in the waters and everything that swarms on the earth. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, between the edible creature and the creature which is not to be eaten. See, in this passage right here, it says we're to be holy because he's holy. We're to be set apart because he's set apart. And we have to be set apart just like he is. And we have to make a distinction between the clean and the unclean. Very important. Very important. Just because Messiah came, that doesn't mean unclean went away. Not at all. Any thoughts, any questions on Exodus 25?